Hey guys, welcome to this new video on our channel, and today we will talk about printing money by 3-betting. So in which spots is it important to 3-bet and when is flat calling the better option? So as you can see, we play in a typical 2-5 game. Oh, and if you're interested in getting better at the live field, make sure to check out the link below to our Mastering Live cash course on Raise Your Edge. But let's get into the action. So we play in a 2-5 game, 120 big blinds deep. ABC rack in under the gun goes ahead and opens. Under the gun 1 flat calls. And the action is on us. And here we have to ask ourselves, should we squeeze or should we call? And with ace king, this is just a mandatory squeeze, because you just leave a lot of money on the table when you just flat call. Because then the ABC rack and under the gun 1, they can both realize their equity with all the weak hands. So hands like, I don't know how light under gun 1 calls, but yeah, with all the weaker Broadway suited connectors, right, hands like 7-8 suited, 8-3 suited, stuff like this, low pocket pairs, hands like 7s, 6s, that are likely just folding to a squeeze. And of course, the ABC rack and under the gun 1 will also call with a lot of worse hands, so hands like ace 10, ace jack, ace queen, king queen suited. With those hands, they are quite likely to continue versus squeeze. And that's why we should definitely squeeze in those spots, especially with our top range. So hands like jacks, queens, kings, aces, ace king. This is always a mandatory squeeze. When we have a middling type hand and a lot of weak players behind, or when we know, okay, under the gun 1 is also a weaker opponent, and we have, for example, a hand like 8s or 9s, this hand is not benefiting so much by squeezing. So putting in some flat calls is definitely fine when we don't have a huge maniac behind or a super aggressive squeezer. Then this is definitely legit. But yeah, make sure to squeeze light enough with your ready range, because yeah, otherwise you just leave money on the table. And the nice thing is, especially here, when someone opens 2-4 bigs, 1 or 2 players call, and you put in the squeeze play and you flop top pair, you get stacks in super easily, right? And most top pairs will not fold. Even on the river, some really weak top pairs will usually bluff catch, and you just print a lot of money by squeezing and 3-betting those strong hands. Because in this scenario, Hero decided to call, which is definitely a huge blunder. And even a hand like ace queen or ace jack, I would definitely go ahead and squeeze. If villain decides to 4-bet, that's definitely another story, but squeezing at first is super important. And yeah, button calls, big blind gets out of the way. So we go 4-way to the flop, and obviously 4-way it's really hard unless you drill such a nice board, right? Ace king 6, super nice. Under the gun checks, under the gun 1 checks, and don't make the mistake to check here with ace king, because you think, well, maybe button is bluffing, if not, a free card will not hurt me so much. But this is just wrong, because we have one of the strongest holding we can ever have on this board texture, and that's the reason why we should just start betting, building a pot. And we definitely have a hand that is good enough for 3 streets, so we want to bet flop, turn and river when turn and river are blanks. Of course, on clubs we want to be a little bit more cautious when a lot of action is going on. And yeah, Hero did elect to bet, so he bets 60 bucks. That's definitely a start. Half pot. In this situation, I don't mind going quite polarized, because all the flush draws will call, every ace will call. And especially against weaker players, being a little bit more polarized is definitely the way to go. And now it's interesting, because the original open raiser check calls, as we can see, on ace king 6. And yeah, what range would you assign your opponent on a board texture like this? I don't think he's ever calling with a king, because he's ABC rack. We bet into 3 people, even with a hand like king queen or king jack. Even with king queen and the queen of clubs, I think he is always folding those hands. So what's left? I think he can definitely have a lot of middling aces. So the real aces, ace deuce, ace 3, ace 4, ace 5, and also some hands that want to pot control or trap. So hands like ace 10, ace jack, maybe ace queen from time to time. Definitely a possibility. I don't think he can have too many flush draws, because with jack 10 or queen jack or queen 10 suited, so those hands in clubs, he's definitely betting or check raising the vast majority of the time. And even with those hands, it's only one combination, and not a ton of flush draws are left, because a hand like 5-6 suited is definitely not to open under the gun. Same story with 6-7, so maybe he's open raising 7-8, but even this hand, most people are dumping pre, so you basically look at a hand like 8-9 suited, 9-10 suited, and also with those hands, a lot of people just start betting on the flop. This is not a hand that's typically in Villain's check call range when he is the open raiser, so I would only give my opponent maybe 1 or 2 flush draws, because as I mentioned, most of the time Villain is really likely to bet or check raise with his combo draws, and not a lot of other draws are left. And the crucial thing here is that the ace is also a club, because when we say the 6 is a club and the ace is a spade, different story now. Then Villain can definitely have a lot of ace-x of clubs that he is pot controlling. Because now the fun starts, and when we go back to our flop range, or the range we assign Villain, now even less strong hands are possible. He can even have less flushes, because we said he can maybe have a hand like 8-9 suited or 9-10 suited. This is not possible anymore. And yeah, maybe, like I mentioned, when he's open raising a bit looser, a hand like 7-8 suited is possible. Also a hand like 6-7 suited, but I doubt that he's open raising early with a hand like this. So the question is, should we value bet again, or should we pot control? And here it's really, really crucial that our opponent usually always has a super unbalanced check call range. So not enough flush draws are in his range. And when the situation is different, so let's say the button flatted our c-bet, this is always a check, right? Always, no question, because now he can also have all the nut hands, he can have a bunch of flushes on his texture, and also pre-flop he can call a lot wider with a lot of suited hands. So completely different scenario. But in this situation, we know that Villain will have a lot of milling type hands, a lot of top pair, good kicker type hands, and also a lot of hands that still have decent equity. So a hand like Ace Queen with a queen in clubs, or a hand like Ace Jack with the jack in clubs. And we can definitely extract a lot of value from those hands. So we should definitely continue betting turn and not checking turn. Checking turn is definitely a solid idea when Villain can have a lot of flushes. So for example, Villain was the cold caller in the big blind or on the button. Totally legit, totally legit. Villain will have a ton of flushes. So we should proceed with caution, and we never have 3 streets. But in a situation like this, when you can break down Villain's range really, really good, we know that we can go for 3 streets super easy. And that's why it's important to bet turn and bet river. Unless river is a third club, a fourth club, then we should definitely check and go to showdown. Yeah, river now is a deuce and hearts, Villain checks, and yeah, we can definitely start polarizing a little bit, because he still has all the ace 10 hearts and ace jacks and ace queens. And remember, a lot of players feel really good about check calling river with top pair, but they don't feel comfortable betting with top pair good kicker or top pair weak kicker on the river, don't they? Because they don't think they get called light enough, so they just try to bluff catch basically all the time. And yeah, Villain still has enough ace-axe hands in his range, because as I mentioned, Villain is not calling any weaker hands than ace-axe on the flop, so we should definitely target especially hands like ace 10, ace jack, ace queen. So you can definitely bet a somewhat big amount on the river, because those hands will never fold, because in our perceived range are also not a lot of flushes, because we check behind on the turn, so betting big is important. So we bet 75, Villain opts for a call. And Villain has aces. Yeah, that's such a shame, such a shame. But when we 3-bet, Villain goes ahead and 4-bets, and he is a ABC rec. This is another spot, right? And with Ace King offsuit, I can definitely see myself folding against some opponents in a situation like this. But more important, we would have lost even more with other middling type hands, so you can avoid those costly mistakes. And again, villain was also able to realize equity quite cheap. And when the board is not ace king 6, we always feel uncomfortable post flop. Because, for example, when the board is like ace jack x, so ace jack 9 or something like this, right? You never know how many streets can you call. Can you call 1 street, 2 streets, 3 streets? Which turn is bad or good for you. So make sure to squeeze preflop with all your strong hands in position and out of position. And yes, I know sometimes it's tough to continue post flop when you brick and you don't know how big you should bet on certain runouts, when to check raise. But it's important to master those spots that you get yourself in a lot of those dicey situations, because in those situations when you play a little bit better than your opponent, then you're printing money, then you will have a great win rate, a great hourly, and this is definitely how we should proceed in a situation like this. So yeah, I really hope this video was helpful. I wish you best of luck at the tables, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.